The icy winds howled across the frozen moon's surface as Rose moved silently through the darkness. Her scaled skin, perfectly adapted to the cold, shimmered under the distant starlight. As an elite huntress of the Frost clan, she had tracked countless prey across dozens of frozen worlds, but tonight's heat signature was different. It pulsed with an intensity she had never seen before. Rose adjusted her thermal visor, focusing on the strange readings ahead. The signal was too strong to be a simple animal, too consistent to be a malfunctioning machine. Whatever waited ahead radiated heat like a small sun, defying the bitter cold of this frozen wasteland. "Control, this is Hunter Rose," she whispered into her communicator. "I'm tracking an unusual heat source, unlike anything in our database." The response came through in crackling static. "Proceed with caution, Hunter. Remember your mission. Eliminate any unauthorized presence on our moon." As she crept closer, a structure emerged from the swirling snow. It was unlike the crystalline architecture of her people. This building was all metal and plastic, with strange markings she didn't recognize. But what caught her attention were the heat signatures moving inside. They were bipedal, like her people, but their thermal readings made no sense. Rose switched between vision modes, trying to understand what she was seeing. These creatures maintained a constant body temperature of approximately 37 degrees Celsius. It seemed impossible. All intelligent life, she knew, adjusted their body temperature to conserve energy, just as her people did. She found a perfect observation point behind an ice formation and focused on one particular figure. It was a male, she guessed, performing some kind of security patrol. He moved with purpose, checking various instruments and barriers around the facility. But what fascinated her was how he radiated heat continuously, without any signs of energy depletion. "These beings," she muttered to herself, "they're like walking furnaces." The male passed close to her position, and Rose felt something she had never experienced before. The heat coming from him called to her at a primal level. Her people spent their lives hunting warmth, gathering it, storing it for survival. But these creatures generated it endlessly, naturally, like it was nothing special. She watched him for hours, learning his patrol pattern. The male, she could now see the name Tom on his uniform, seemed completely unbothered by the cold. He wore protective gear, but it was far lighter than anything her people needed to survive here. Rose's hands trembled, not from cold. She never got cold, but from excitement. This discovery could change everything for her people. The Frost clan had spent generations searching the stars for sustainable heat sources. They had fought wars over thermal vents, conquered worlds for their molten cores, but never had they encountered beings like these. Her mission orders were clear: eliminate any unauthorized presence. But as she watched Tom complete another round, sharing a warm drink and friendly words with his colleagues inside, she felt her resolve weakening. These beings weren't just heat sources. They were intelligent, organized, and seemed to have mastered the art of surviving the cold without having to hunt for warmth. The facility's lights created a warm glow in the darkness, and Rose found herself moving closer, drawn by both curiosity and the promise of that wonderful heat. She knew she should report this discovery to her clan immediately, but something made her hesitate. The way these creatures shared their warmth freely with each other fascinated her. A sudden blast of frigid wind reminded Rose of her duty. She activated her communicator again, but paused before speaking. For the first time in her hunting career, she questioned her mission. These warm beings weren't a threat. They could be the solution her people had been seeking for generations. As the moon's long night continued, Rose remained at her post, torn between duty and discovery, watching the warm beings with growing fascination. Little did she know, a massive storm was approaching, one that would force her to choose between her mission and her survival, between her people's old ways and the intoxicating warmth these strange creatures provided so effortlessly. The storm hit without warning. Sheets of ice crystals blasted across the moon's surface, dropping the temperature far below even what Rose could handle. Her thermal suit's power cells, designed for standard hunting missions, began failing in the extreme cold. She had never felt anything like this before. The bone-deep chill that made her scales crack and her muscles seize. Control, requesting emergency extraction. Rose called into her communicator, but only static answered. The storm was too strong, blocking all signals. Through her failing thermal visor, she could still see the human station glowing like a beacon in the darkness. The rational part of her mind screamed that approaching it was dangerous, but the cold was becoming unbearable. For the first time in her life, Rose understood true freezing. She tried to move toward the station, but stumbled, her legs no longer responding properly. As her vision began to dim, she saw a figure approaching through the storm. It was Tom, the security officer, bundled up against the cold but still radiating that wonderful heat. "Hey, are you alive?" His voice barely carried through the howling wind. Rose tried to respond, but her body had begun shutting down to conserve energy, a survival mechanism of her species that now threatened to kill her. Tom didn't hesitate. Despite not knowing what she was, he rushed forward and grabbed her. Rose's thermal sensors went wild at his touch. Even through his protective gear, he was so wonderfully warm. She wanted to warn him that she was a hunter, that she had been watching his station with ill intent, but no words would come. "Stay with me," Tom said, half carrying, half dragging her toward the station. "I don't know what you are, but no one deserves to freeze out here." Emergency protocols blared as Tom carried Rose through the airlock. Red lights flashed, and voices shouted in confusion. Rose caught fragments of conversation through her fading consciousness. "Tom, that's not human. She's freezing to death. Security breach. Get the emergency warming equipment." The next thing Rose felt was warmth. Pure, wonderful, overwhelming warmth. She opened her eyes to find herself wrapped in what the humans called an emergency blanket, a simple piece of reflective material that trapped heat with remarkable efficiency. Her scales began to flex again as her body temperature rose to functional levels. Tom stood nearby, arguing with another human in a white coat. "Protocol says we should detain any alien life forms," the other human was saying. "Protocol also says we protect life when possible," Tom countered. "Look at her. She's obviously intelligent, and she was dying out there." Rose tried to sit up, and both humans turned to look at her. She noticed they kept their distance, but Tom's expression showed concern rather than fear. "Can you understand us?" Tom asked slowly. Rose nodded, then spoke in the trade language common to this sector of space. "I understand. You saved me." The humans looked surprised that she could communicate. The one in the white coat, a doctor, Rose would later learn, stepped forward with some kind of scanning device. "Your body temperature was dangerously low," the doctor explained. "It's stabilizing now, but you're obviously not built for this environment. What were you doing out there?" Rose could have lied, should have lied, but the wonderful warmth surrounding her made her reckless with honesty. "I was hunting, watching your station. My people, we need heat to survive." She expected them to attack her for the admission. Instead, Tom moved closer, and the wave of heat coming from him made her scales tingle pleasantly. "Well, you found plenty of heat here," he said with a small smile. "Once you're stable, we can talk about why you were really watching us. But for now, just rest and warm up." Rose sank back into the blanket, marveling at these creatures who would save an enemy simply because they could. The warmth they offered wasn't just physical. There was something else, something her people had never considered. These humans were warm on the inside too, in ways that had nothing to do with body temperature. As she drifted off to sleep, Rose realized she had discovered something far more valuable than a heat source. She had found a warmth that could change everything, if only her people could understand it. 3 days at the human station had taught Rose more about warmth than her entire life as a hunter. She sat in what they call the observation room, watching the humans go about their daily tasks. Each one of them was like a small star, radiating heat that her people would have fought wars to possess. Tom entered the room carrying 2 steaming cups. "Thought you might like to try hot chocolate," he said, offering her one. "Just be careful, it's pretty warm." Rose took the cup carefully, her scaled fingers wrapping around its surface. The heat seeped into her hands, making her feel strangely peaceful. She had learned that humans used heat for more than just survival. They used it for comfort, for pleasure. "Your thermal readings change with your emotions," Rose observed, watching Tom's heat signature fluctuate slightly as he smiled. "When you're happy, you get warmer. When you're scared or sad, you get cooler." Tom nodded, sipping his drink. "Never really thought about it that way. I guess we're pretty much walking mood rings to you." Rose didn't understand the reference, but she continued watching in fascination as a group of humans in the next room laughed at something, their heat signatures briefly flaring with joy. It was beautiful to see. "In my clan," she said slowly, "we believe that heat is something to be hunted, captured, and stored. We never considered that it could be created. Through happiness, through exercise, through these hot drinks you make." As if to demonstrate, Tom stood up and did what he called jumping jacks. His body temperature rose slightly with the exercise, and Rose watched in amazement. "See," he said, slightly out of breath. "We can generate our own heat when we need to, but honestly, I've never thought much about it. It's just natural for us." Rose stood up too, trying to mimic his movements. Her own cold-blooded biology meant she didn't generate heat the same way, but she could feel her muscles warming slightly with the activity. "Amazing," she whispered. "My people spend their lives hunting heat sources across the galaxy, when we could have been learning to create our own." Suddenly, an alarm blared through the station. Rose's cup slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor. She knew that sound. It was a Frost Clan signal. "They're looking for me," she said, her scales flattening in distress. Tom's heat signature showed concern as he rushed to check the station's monitors. "We've got multiple contacts approaching from the north," he reported. "Are these your people?" Rose nodded, feeling colder than she had in days despite the station's warmth. "They must have tracked me here." "Tom, there's something you need to know." She watched his heat signature carefully as she explained how her clan harvested heat from living beings, how they had fought and killed to maintain their thermal resources. To her surprise, his temperature didn't drop with fear. It rose with determination. "So that's why you were watching us," he said. "You were hunting us for our body heat." "I was," Rose admitted. "But these past days have shown me there's another way. My people don't need to hunt warmth. We need to learn how to create it, share it, like humans do." Tom's expression softened, his heat signature shifting to what Rose had learned to recognize as compassion. "We can help your people, Rose. We have technology, knowledge about thermal energy. But first, we need to stop them from attacking the station." The Frost Clan signals grew stronger. Rose could feel her people getting closer, hunting the station's heat signature just as she had days ago. But now she stood on the other side, watching Tom organize the station's defenses, feeling the strength of human warmth in ways she never expected. "I'll help you," she said firmly. "My people need to understand what I've learned here. True warmth isn't taken, it's shared." As the station's emergency lights flashed red, Rose felt something new inside her, a different kind of warmth, one that came from choosing to protect rather than hunt. She realized that humans had taught her more than just about heat. They had taught her about compassion, about connection, about finding warmth within herself. Now she had to make her clan understand, before their old ways of hunting warmth destroyed everything she had come to value. The Frost Clan's hunting vessels appeared through the storm like ghostly shadows, their cold engines barely registering on the station's thermal scanners. Rose stood at the command center window, her scaled hands pressed against the glass as she watched her people approach. Behind her, Tom and the station crew worked quickly to prepare their defenses. 5 ships, Rose said quietly. They sent the entire hunting fleet. Her scales shimmered with stress as she recognized the largest ship. The clan leader is here too. How many warriors in each ship? Tom asked, his heat signature steady despite the danger. Rose had come to admire that about him. Humans could stay warm even in the coldest situations. 20 per ship. They're all equipped with heat-draining weapons. Rose turned to face the humans. You don't understand. When my people hunt, we don't just kill. We drain every bit of heat from our prey. It's horrible. The station's communication system crackled to life with a familiar voice that made Rose's scales tighten. Huntress Rose. The clan leader's cold voice filled the room. We tracked your signal here. Well done on finding such a rich heat source. Prepare for extraction, and we'll begin the harvest. Rose saw the humans' heat signatures flare with fear, but they didn't run. Instead, they moved closer together, sharing their warmth like they always did. Tom stepped forward to the communication panel, but Rose stopped him. Wait, she said. I need to make a choice. She looked at the humans around her, each one glowing with inner warmth that her people would kill to possess. Then she looked back at the approaching ships, carrying warriors who only knew how to take heat, never create it. My whole life, I believed that hunting warmth was the only way to survive, Rose said, her voice growing stronger. But you humans showed me something different. You create warmth. You share it. You use it to help others, even your enemies. Tom's heat signature pulsed with what she now recognized as pride. What are you going to do? Rose straightened up and pressed the communication button. Clan leader, this is Rose. These humans are not prey. They are not heat sources to be harvested. They are people who can teach us a better way. You dare defy the clan. The leader's voice turned dangerous. You would protect these warm bloods. I would protect the future of our people, Rose answered. These humans have technology, knowledge. They can help us create our own heat, maintain our own warmth. We don't need to hunt anymore. Laughter echoed through the communication system. Fool. Heat must be taken. That is our way. If you stand with them, you will be harvested with them. The hunting ships moved into attack formation. Rose felt the old fear trying to take hold, the fear of cold, of losing heat, of dying frozen in space. But then she felt Tom's hand on her shoulder, warm and steady, and the fear melted away. I stand with them, Rose said firmly, and I will show you why they are stronger than any prey we have ever hunted. Humans don't just have heat, they have heart. She turned to Tom and the station crew. Your defenses won't stop their ships, but I know their tactics, their weaknesses. If you trust me, I can help you survive this. Tom's heat signature flared with determination. We trust you, Rose. What do you need us to do? Rose looked at the approaching ships, seeing them now through new eyes. Her people moved like hunting beasts, thinking only of the kill. But humans moved with purpose, with planning, with cooperation. She knew which way was better. First, she said, we need to show them something they've never seen before. How warm bloods fight to protect, not just to kill. And then we need to make them understand that the greatest warmth comes not from taking, but from sharing. As the first shots from the hunting ships lit up the storm outside, Rose felt that new warmth inside her grow stronger. She had made her choice, not just between her people and the humans, but between being a hunter and being something more. The real battle was about to begin, and for the first time in her life, Rose was fighting for warmth, not just hunting it. The first blast from the Frost clan ships hit the station's outer shield, creating a wave of intense cold that made the humans shiver. But Rose knew this was just the beginning. Her people always started with the coldest weapons, wearing down their prey's defenses. They're trying to freeze the shield generators, Rose explained, moving quickly through the station's corridors with Tom. Once the metal becomes brittle enough, they'll break through. Our heating systems are at maximum, Tom reported, checking the station's readings. His breath was visible now in the cooling air. But we're losing heat faster than we can generate it. Rose watched the humans respond to the crisis. Instead of panicking, they gathered in the central hub, sharing body heat and distributing emergency thermal suits. It was exactly what her people never understood. Humans grew stronger together. "I have a plan," Rose said, "but it's dangerous. Your station's reactor, it generates a lot of heat, right?" Tom nodded. "It's our main power source." "Why?" "My people are hunting your body heat, but what if we gave them something too hot to handle?" Rose's scales flickered with excitement. "Can you channel the reactor's heat through the outer shields?" Before Tom could answer, a massive impact shook the station. Through the viewport, Rose saw frost warriors landing on the outer hull, their cold suits letting them survive the vacuum of space. They carried heat-draining spears, weapons designed to freeze prey solid. "They're cutting through," someone shouted. Rose grabbed a station security weapon. "Tom, get your people to the reactor room. I'll hold them off." "Not alone you won't." Tom checked his own weapon, his heat signature blazing with determination. Around them, other humans stepped forward, armed and ready. The first breach came with an explosion of freezing air. Frost warriors poured in, their scaled armor reflecting the emergency lights. They moved with deadly grace, each one a trained hunter like Rose had been. "Take their heat," the squad leader ordered. "Leave them frozen." But the humans were ready. As the warriors charged forward with their freezing weapons, the station crew fought back with modified heating tools. Every time a warrior tried to drain heat from one human, two more would blast them with waves of warmth. Rose found herself fighting alongside Tom, moving in perfect sync. When a warrior's cold beam nearly hit him, she pulled him aside. When another warrior rushed her, Tom's weapon sent them stumbling back, their cold suit overwhelmed by the heat. "The reactor controls are ready," a voice called over the station's comm system. "Do it," Rose shouted, understanding now why humans were so special. It wasn't just their physical warmth, it was their burning determination, their fiery spirit that refused to give up. The station hummed as reactor heat flooded the shield system. Outside, the Frost clan ships suddenly backed away, their sensors overwhelmed by the thermal surge. The warriors inside the station stumbled, their cold suits struggling to compensate. But the battle wasn't over. Through the breach stepped the clan leader, wearing ancient armor that could withstand even a star's heat. The leader's cold gaze fixed on Rose. "Traitor," the leader hissed. "You would give up our ways for these warm bloods." Rose stood her ground, feeling Tom's warmth beside her. "I found a better way. Look around you. They fight not because they have to, but because they choose to. They share their heat freely, and it makes them stronger than any hunter." The leader raised a massive freezing weapon. "Then die warm with them." What happened next would become legend among both species. As the leader fired the weapon, Rose didn't dodge. Instead, she stepped in front of Tom, her scales suddenly blazing with reflected human heat. The freezing beam hit her but didn't stop her. For the first time in her life, Rose felt truly warm from the inside out. She moved forward, step by step, pushing through the cold beam. The leader's weapon crackled and sparked, overwhelmed by the combined heat of human technology and Rose's newfound inner fire. The battle was reaching its peak, and both sides were about to learn just how powerful shared warmth could really be. The leader's freezing weapon exploded in a shower of ice crystals, overwhelmed by the combined heat of the station's reactor and Rose's determination. The blast knocked everyone back, creating a moment of complete silence in the battle. Rose stood between her people and the humans, her scales glowing with absorbed warmth. Steam rose from her body where the freezing beam had hit. Behind her, Tom and the station crew watched in amazement. Even the Frost warriors stopped their attack, never having seen one of their own resist a freezing weapon. "Impossible," the leader snarled, throwing aside the ruined weapon. "No hunter can withstand the cold beam." "Because we never tried to make our own warmth," Rose replied, her voice strong. "We were so busy hunting it from others, We forgot to look inside ourselves. She turned to face her clan, seeing their confusion through their combat visors. Look at their station, Rose continued, gesturing around them. Look how they use heat, not just for survival, but for creation, for comfort, for life itself. Tom stepped forward, his heat signature calm and steady. He pulled up the station's main computer display, showing thermal diagrams and technology schematics. Your world is dying, Rose said to her clan. Each year we must hunt farther, fight harder for less and less heat. But it doesn't have to be this way. She pointed to the diagrams. Humans have mastered heat, not by taking it, but by understanding it, by creating it. The leader laughed coldly. Pretty words from a traitor. Our way has kept us alive for thousands of years. Barely alive, Rose countered. Living from hunt to hunt, fighting wars over thermal vents, watching our children freeze because we can't find enough heat sources. She saw some of the warriors lower their weapons, recognizing the truth in her words. Tom touched a control, and the display changed to show the station's heating system designs. We can help you build these, he said to the Frost clan. Thermal generators, heat exchangers, energy systems that create and maintain warmth without harming anyone. And give up our heritage as hunters, the leader demanded. No, Rose said softly. Become more than hunters. Become builders, creators, sharers of warmth. She walked to the nearest warrior and touched their arm. Remember when you were young, how we all huddled together in the deep cold, sharing what little heat we could find. We can have that warmth all the time now, but freely given, not taken by force. One by one, the warriors began lowering their weapons. Their heat signatures, usually cold and controlled, began to shift with emotion. Rose could see the hope growing in them. Hope for a future without endless hunting, without constant cold. The leader saw it too. You would all betray our ways. Listen to this warm blood lover? I listened to them because they showed me a truth we have forgotten, Rose said. Real strength isn't in taking warmth. It's in creating it, sharing it. She held out her hand to the leader. Feel my scales. I'm warm, truly warm, for the first time in my life. Not from stolen heat, but from something the humans helped me find inside myself. The leader hesitated, then reached out to touch Rose's scales. The surprise was visible even through the ancient armor. Rose was indeed warm, radiating heat like a human. How? The leader whispered. They taught me that warmth comes in many forms, Rose explained. From movement, from emotion, from working together. Things we gave up long ago when we became only hunters. She looked at her fellow warriors. We can learn this. We can change. We can be warm again. A young warrior stepped forward, removing their combat visor. I want to learn, they said simply. Others followed, each one choosing a new path. The leader stood silent, watching as centuries of tradition began to shift in a single moment. The choice was now clear. Hold on to the old ways and watch their people slowly freeze, or embrace a new future where warmth could be created, not just hunted. The revelation was spreading through the Frost clan like a wave of warmth itself. They didn't have to be cold anymore. They didn't have to hunt anymore. For the first time in their history, there was hope for a different way of life. And it had all started because one huntress had learned to crave a different kind of warmth. 3 months after the confrontation at the human station, Rose stood beside Tom in the newly built thermal exchange center on her home world. Around them, humans and Frost clan members worked together, installing heating systems and teaching each other their ways. Look at them, Rose said softly, watching young warriors learning to operate thermal generators. A season ago, they would have been training to hunt heat. Now they're learning to create it. Tom smiled, his familiar warm signature still fascinating to Rose's thermal vision. Your people learn quickly. We've already set up working heat systems in 3 major cities. Through the center's large windows, Rose could see her world changing. The traditionally dark, cold streets now glowed with warm light. Frost Clan members walked without their heavy thermal suits, their scales beginning to show the first signs of self-generated warmth like roses. The leader, who had chosen to stay and watch over the transformation, approached them. The ancient armor was gone, replaced by simple clothing. "The council meeting is about to begin," they announced. "They want to hear the progress report." Rose nodded and followed the leader to the meeting hall, Tom walking beside her. Inside, human scientists and Frost Clan elders sat together around a heated table, something that would have been impossible just months ago. "The results are beyond our expectations," a human scientist reported, displaying charts on the wall. "The combination of human heating technology and Frost Clan cold resistance has created entirely new possibilities. Your people's natural ability to store and regulate temperature, when combined with our heat generation methods, is revolutionary." One of the elders spoke up, their scales shimmering with excitement. "Our youngest children are already showing signs of natural heat generation. They won't know the desperate hunts we knew. They won't have to fight for warmth." Rose felt Tom's hand touch her shoulder, a gesture that once would have shocked her with its warmth, but now felt natural and comforting. She had learned that physical warmth was just the beginning of what humans could share. "There's more," the leader added. "Tell them about the caves, Rose." Rose stepped forward. "We've discovered that our ancient thermal vents, which we fought so many wars over, can be enhanced with human technology. Instead of fighting for small amounts of heat, we can now generate enough warmth for entire cities. The old hunting grounds are becoming power stations." The meeting continued with more reports of progress, but Rose found herself thinking about how much had changed. Warriors who once competed for heat now worked together to build warming centers. Children who would have been trained as hunters were instead learning to be engineers and scientists. After the meeting, Rose and Tom walked through the city streets. The eternal ice that had covered everything was beginning to thin, revealing the beautiful crystal structures beneath that had been hidden for generations. "Sometimes I still can't believe it," Rose said, watching her breath mist in the air. Still cold by human standards, but warmer than her world had been in centuries. One small mission to hunt a heat source, and everything changed. Tom laughed. "Well, you did beg for my warmth at first." "I did not beg," Rose protested, but her scales flickered with amusement. "I merely expressed a strong interest in human thermal properties." Their laughter was interrupted by a group of young Frost Clan children running past, playing a new game they had invented with heated balls that glowed as they were thrown. Their scales already showed the iridescent sheen of self-generated warmth. "That's the real change," Rose said softly. "They'll never know what it means to be truly cold, to hunt warmth. They'll only know how to create it and share it." As the sun set on the warming world, Rose felt that now familiar inner warmth that had nothing to do with temperature. Her people had found something far more valuable than heat. They had found a new way to live, to grow, to thrive. And it had all started because one huntress had learned that the greatest warmth comes not from taking, but from sharing. The night was still cold, but no one minded anymore. They all knew that warmth, both physical and emotional, was always just a heartbeat away, freely given, never taken, warming their world one day at a time.